traders, Kuzabini coming to you from theclosingprint.com on March 29th, 2015. In this video, we cover the U.S. indices near the 50 MA, bouncing on Friday after halting its downtrend on Thursday. Tick and Tick Q both are moving sideways. Trend, we saw elevated readings on Friday above 1.90 for the most part, and only tapered off to plus 1.65 at one point. That said, breadth, we see no MADs or MDDs, no distribution or accumulation days. And the NYHL 52-week highs minus 52-week lows, the net result suggests that we're in a trading range. Currencies, the US dollar moving sideways just below the 10E and the 20 MA. Bonds continue to rise with the 10 EMA, referring to TLT. And news catalysts out there still continue to be Greece and Yemen, among other things. And of course, we'll look at IBD setups for the week ahead. This is a chart of the SPY, the Spiders S&P 500. Note we're trading inside of this volume by price bar. Appears to be support off of the lower Bollinger Band. 50 MA is just slightly overhead, as well as the 10 EMA and the 20 MA. We anticipate with slow stow in the buy zone and the short-term MACD histogram 5.14.5, producing a smaller bar on Friday that will continue to see upward momentum changing over the next few days. Keep an eye on stow as the indicator continues to point to higher prices. And here is the 30-minute chart, which we made a big deal out of. After peaking on Friday, the week prior, moving sideways on Monday and then starting to move lower, we saw a crossover. We indicated that we thought we were going to see lower prices soon thereafter, being the spider sectors were all overbought and looked like they were going to turn down below 80, which is exactly what happened. And we followed through into Thursday. We made a higher low, and then we moved sideways on Friday. On Friday, we made mention that we would probably see the moving averages cross through the intermediate term 30-period moving average. So we've been watching that for a crossover and a change of trend. Shifting to the 60-minute chart, we can see this a little bit more readily as we move sideways in this range, the highs that we saw in early March, and again at the end of March, the last week. Drop through the moving averages, the 10-period EMA, in this case the blue line. And below this volume by price bar, we mentioned the reverse Kirby, that all played out. And then we found support down here around the 204 level on Thursday. We've since seen a MACD histogram cross. Slow stow on both the 5.1 and 14.1 continue to point to higher prices, as we indicated on the 30-minute chart. 206.75, 206.80 is a 382 Fibonacci. 50% is right above 207.50, and of course if we make it all the way back to 618, we're going to reassess this as a possible move back to highs. But if we make it to 382, that'll give us an indication of strength. If we fall short of that, that'll be telling us that we're probably seeing a dead cat bounce that is weaker than anticipated, and we could see a move lower. We don't anticipate that happen. I'll point out why by looking at the spider sectors. Looking at the sectors with slow stow 5.1 enabled, we pointed this out the previous Sunday video where we saw most of these sectors had started to turn lower below 80, and we anticipated lower prices. That actually turned out to be the case. XBI moved lower very quickly and bounced off the 50-period moving average. Most all of these sectors now are down below the 20 range in the buy zone for stow. sans the XLE, which you can see is moving down through 50. Everything else is down below 20 nicely and starting to move higher. We can see XLP is almost there. And of course, XLY, XLV, both of these were leading quite well over the last few weeks. And then we saw that top on Friday previous, 2 weeks ago. We stopped at the 20 period moving average. Now we're moving back above. This sector will more than likely outperform many of the other ones, along with XBI after getting really shellacked over the past week. We saw that bounce at the 50 period moving average, just spinning top, and on Friday we moved higher. So all of this indicates that the SPY as well as the S&P 500 is going to continue this bounce that we saw on Friday. Our sentiment indicators tick cumulative. We had a little dip down through the 10 period EMA, the blue line, early in the month, and now we're starting to see a dip and a resumption going into Friday. So we're watching what happens as prices move sideways. We're off of the lower Bollinger Band. We have a red stick on Elder. We're looking for a blue stick or a green stick on Monday. If we look at tick Q for the NASDAQ, we see the same thing. We're closer to the 10 EMA, more than likely going to push through that on Monday. Note we touched the lower Bollinger Band, we bounced. On Friday, we had a higher close, but we still had a red day. We're looking for a blue stick or a green stick on Monday, Tuesday. VIX closed above its 10 EMA, so we are more bullish than we are bearish. That's why we're anticipating to see a continuation bounce here. On the fear indicator, if we look at VIX versus VIX futures, we had this nice signal last week at highs that we pointed out, and we reversed quite nicely. We hit the 90% level. We're still pretty bullish. We see an inside day on the S&P 500 after forming a spinning top long-legged doji on Thursday. So we're watching the moving averages above, and we're looking for a reverse and possibly a move higher on VIX VXV. Here is VIX short-term futures, VXX, the 3-minute chart. Note that we were below the VWAP all day, which was bullish for stocks as we know, and we closed below VWAP at the end of the day on Friday. So we're looking to see VIX VXX futures down below VWAP starting on Monday, Tuesday. As long as we stay down below that, that should be clear sailing for SPY over the next couple of days. SPX, TLT, we're both moving sideways. You can tell the moving average here continues to move sideways, as well as the short-term period moving average on TLT. We have a blue stick on Friday. We're watching this for another blue stick or a green stick to give us an indication which direction bonds are going to move. That'll further give us an idea of what's going to happen with the S&P 500. Looking at the US dollar, we are just below the 10 period EMA, the 20, the blue line, and the 20 period moving average. We see this long-legged doji spinning top on Friday after testing the 50 period moving average on Thursday. We bounced and we remain moving sideways. As far as breadth is concerned, NYMO made a little dip down to minus 24 last week, is moving higher. If we are going to see higher prices on SPY, we want to see breadth continue to move the bullish side of this zero line. We anticipate that that would be the case. Note the breadth back in late summer and also in October, November, which much more expanded, and we're seeing more volatility here, more back and forth action in breadth over the last couple of weeks. As you would expect, the NYSE, the summation index, turned back down on Thursday, Friday. We're looking for this to regain the 5 period moving average and shift back to the upside for further confirmation that we'll see higher prices on the S&P 500 and the indices in general. So let's take a look at the IBD50, ABC, AmerisourceBergen, and the drug retailers industry group. Note we held the 10-period EMA and we bounced, whereas most of the XBI, pharmaceutical, and drug sector had a pretty nasty week. This name managed to show some relative strength, being part of the IBD50. Note slow stow and MACD are both moving lower. We're looking for a turn in slow stow and for MACD to stay above its signal line on most of these stocks in the IBD50. ABG, Asbury Automotive Group, back above the 10-period EMA, close to the upper Bollinger Band, and back above this volume by price level. Note slow stow is moving lower. We want to see this turn and MACD stay above its signal line. ACT, Actavis Healthcare Pharmaceuticals, held the 20 period slightly below the 10 EMA. Again, slow stow oversold and turning. We want to see MACD regain its signal line and prices get back above the 10 EMA. That will fulfill all three criteria. AFSI, this one got shellacked over the last 3 days. We're watching this one, how it works at the 50 period. If this continues to move lower, it'll likely drop off the IBD50. AKRX, back above the 10 period EMA. We got the 20 period. Slow stow has turned and MACD is back above its signal line, a short duration. We're looking for histogram to get back above 0 on the 12.26.9 MACD. ALK, right at the 50 period moving average. We're watching this one slow stow turn. Watch for MACD to turn as well. The other indication for SPY higher prices is the fact that all of the IBD 50 stocks for the most part look pretty good going into the week. Note slow stow and where MACD is. We want to see MACD get back above its signal line. AMBA looking good, back above the 10 period EMA. Note the narrowing Bollinger Bands, prices above the volume by price support resistance levels. Slow stow needs to turn and MACD needs to stay above its signal line. AOS is new on the list, building materials, as you would expect. The XHB, the builders sector, looking pretty good last week, the week before. We're trying to attack this recent highs, relatively little overhead supply to speak of. 50 period moving average continues to trek higher, slow stow turning, and MACD above its signal line. This one looks pretty good going into the week. ATHM, Special Consumer Services, back above the 10 EMA. Bollinger Bands are fairly wide, above the volume by price levels. Slow stow needs to turn, and MACD needs to remain above its signal line. AVGO, this was right up in last Sunday's IBD, talking about wireless and semiconductors in China, broadband in general. Prices closed right at the 20 period and 10 EMA. Slow stow is starting to turn. We want to see MACD get back above its signal line. Biogen got shellacked with the biotech stocks. Held the 20 period. We're watching what happens here at the 10 EMA. Slow stow is in oversold territory, could turn very quickly. We just want to see MACD get back above its signal line. Cavium Networks, semiconductors again, really nice day on Friday. We're watching this one back above the 10 period EMA, no overhead supply. Bollinger Bands are fairly narrow for the most part. We could see an increase in volatility, slow stow is turning, and MACD looks like it wants to get back above the signal line. CBM, I believe, is new on the list, narrow Bollinger Bands, prices right at the 10 and a 20. Volume by price bar, resistance, support level. We could get above that. No overhead supply, 52-week highs. Slow stow could look better. Looks like it's leaning and may turn. MACD needs to get back above its signal line. Celgene, another name in the biotech sector that got whacked, held the lower Bollinger Bands and bounced, rejected at the 10 and the 50. So we'll keep an eye on that. Volume by price support level. If we lose that, have this big gap down here that prices could fall into. Slow stow is oversold and turning. MACD is below its signal line. Cerner software, keep an eye on this one, back above the 10-period EMA, narrow Bollinger Bands, volume by price. Slow stow getting near oversold. MACD is right at its signal line. CGNX electronic equipment, back above the 10-period, Bollinger Bands are narrowing. Note the volume by price levels here. Slow stow turning, MACD below its signal line, that needs to change. CNC above its 10 period, it tested the 20, had a nice reversal candle on Thursday. Slow stow could turn, and MACD is right by its signal line. DLTR, Dollar Tree, regaining its 20 period, looks like it's going to retake the 10 period. Slow stow oversold, MACD could turn. We'll keep an eye on this one. Note the 50 period moving average and lack of volume up here for sellers. EPAM, we're back in this one, having gotten stopped out on Wednesday. Note the narrow Bollinger Bands. We reattacked this level, regained the 20 and the 10 period EMA. So we got back in right where we got stopped, right at the 61.75, 61.50 area. Note slow stow is turning, and MACD looks like it's going to regain its signal line. Nice stock. Had a nice write-up in IBD over the weekend. FLTX sitting right on the 20 period, right below the 10 period EMA, two dojis in a row. Keep an eye on that one. Slow stow is near oversold. Needs to regain its signal line, MACD. Harman, consumer electronics. We're looking at this one below the 10 period EMA. We want to see that regain the 10 and get back above its signal line on MACD. HCNP closed right at the 10 and the 20. Volume by price resistance level here. Narrow Bollinger Bands. This one's going to make up its mind which direction it wants to take off in the short term. Slow stow turning. MACD looks like it wants to regain its signal line. Note the histogram. IPGP, we're going to pass on that one, way below its 10 period. Jazz, below its 10 period, sitting on the 50. You could look at some of these where we have support just below price, maybe an anticipatory trade. Slow stow's turning. MACD looks like it may regain its signal line if IBB and XBI sector continues to bounce. We could see the upper Bollinger Band if we retake the 10 period EMA. There's basically no sellers up here. LCI sitting on the 20. We'll pass on this one. LinkedIn continues in the sideways descending channel. Tested the 50 period moving average like we thought it might last week. Finally did it on Thursday. I think we could see a move higher if the indices cooperate and move higher with all of the sectors firing like we mentioned on the sector candle glance charts. Manhattan Associates, nice software company, moving higher right at the 10 and the 20. This one's probably going to continue to move higher. Slow stow turning. MACD more than likely will regain its signal line this week. MEI, electrical components, back above the 10 period EMA. Note the Bollinger Bands are fairly wide. They're coming back together. Just means it could take a couple more days. Slow stow is getting near oversold. MACD is pretty close to its signal line, but it's pretty far away from the zero line. So keep an eye on this one. MMS, business support services, right above the 10 period EMA. Bollinger Bands are starting to narrow. Slow stow oversold. Could turn, and MACD could follow. Monster, this one's a takeover article in IBD. Continue to be talked about. Narrow Bollinger Bands, prices moving sideways above the 10 period EMA. Slow stow near oversold. MACD is below its signal line. MTSI semiconductors, nice little bounce off the 50 period moving average at the 20. 10 period is overhead. We have this volume by price support level. Slow stow near oversold, could turn any day, and MACD is very near its signal line. Mylanta Pharmaceuticals, Spinning top right at the 10-period EMA. We're going to pass on this one this week, although slow still is turning. MACD is right near its signal line. NOAA, spinning top on Friday, right below the upper Bollinger Band. Note the volume by price levels. Slow still looks like it could set up better before we take another look at this one. MACD is above its signal line. O'Reilly Automotive Services, along with ABG, mentioned earlier on. The looking pretty good here, back above the 10-period EMA. Bollinger Bands are fairly tight. There was an article in IBD, I believe, last Sunday about this company. Pretty bullish article. Slow still turning before it gets back to oversold. That looks good. And MACD looks like it's going to regain its signal line. Ross Stores at the lower Bollinger Band, narrow here. We're very curious as to which direction this is going to go, with slow still oversold and MACD below its signal line. Keep an eye on Ross Stores this week. 50 MA looks like a magnet for some reason, with prices on the lower Bollinger Band. SCI, this one's new on the list this week. Nice little test of the 20 period, regained the 10 EMA and pushed higher on Friday. Slow still nearing oversold, could turn, and MACD is above its signal line. Sherwin-Williams Paints and Chemicals. Note that we held the 50 period moving average on Friday. 10 period is overhead, narrow Bollinger Bands. Note the descending channel. This one's had quite a run. This is like a third stage base, so keep an eye on it. If you're thinking about trading this one, make your position commensurately smaller. Slow still turning, MACD below its signal line. SPR, Spirit Aerospace, has been on the list for a couple of weeks, moving sideways in this channel pattern. 50 period moving average is down below, back above the 10 period EMA. Note the volume by price bars. Slow still turning, MACD could regain its signal line. Note the histogram on the short duration. Could take one day to get back above that. SWI Software, SolarWinds, back above the 10 period, moving sideways above this volume by price level, could get going. Slow still points to possibly a little bit more time before that happens. MACD above its signal line. And the last 10, SWKS. Remember, we were looking for a retest of the 10 period. We got that on Wednesday, dropped down through it, tested the 50 period, and then regained this on momentum and pretty solid volume on Friday. Slow still getting down below 50, could turn, and MACD could turn back up as well. I got a feeling this one's going to retest the highs this week. THRM, another auto parts and auto industry group name. Long-legged doji spinning top right at the 10 period EMA. Pretty narrow Bollinger Bands above this volume by price level. If we get up above that, could continue to move higher. Slow still could push a little bit lower first and then turn. Tractor Supply came down and tested the 50 period. This one looks like it may regain the 10 period EMA this week. Slow still is oversold and turning, and we could see MACD get back above the histogram, get back above the zero line this week. So keep an eye on that. UA looking pretty good. Retested the 20 period, back above the 10 EMA, closed right near it. Slow still oversold, could turn, and MACD is right on top of its signal line. Ulta back above the 10 period. Bollinger Bands looks like they're contracting. Volume by price level here to watch. Slow still could move lower a couple more days before it turns, and MACD is right on its signal line. UTHR Biotech got shellacked as well. Moved off of the highs, 10-15 points. Retested the 20 period, got back above on Thursday, and then Friday resumed the 10 period EMA. Slow still could get a little bit more oversold before it turns. Just keep an eye on it. And White Wave Foods, this one was in IBD as well. I believe a takeover, merger and acquisition name, M&A. Nice little breakout, narrow Bollinger Bands, and we got a nice 2-3 point move last week. Note the volume, and slow still getting to oversold. MACD cross back above its signal. Okay, so this is Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com. For you new traders, be sure to check out these top 5 or 6 videos, which will give you a better edge on understanding the markets, taking setups, and where to position yourself for the highest risk reward on your trade. In addition, if you don't subscribe to the blog, this is a spam-free site. Enter your email address in here and you can get these delivered to your email every day. You'll note my tweets are here, the watch list for the week or the day. You can just scroll down through these to keep in track of the trades that we're looking at, whether they're high type flags or Bollinger Band setups. It's also a place for me to document the trades and thoughts going into the weeks. So I hope this helps. Take care. We'll talk to you on the stream on Monday.